Welcome back to the Pin Pals Podcast, the podcast that interviews your favorite pin makers to learn their journey through the pin game. I'm your host, Eric, aka Warrior Pins. Thanks for tuning in. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I highly encourage you to do the usual, follow the podcast, rate it 5 stars. I think you can do that both on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Drop a review if you can. That would be awesome. I noticed we had a 1-star rating, which is like pretty crazy. No review, so I don't know why this person decided to rate the podcast 1 star. But if you feel so compelled to rate it 1, 2, 3, anything other than 5 stars, let me know why. I'd love to know, leave a review and speak your mind. Tell me why. This is a podcast built pretty much by pin makers for pin makers, and I'm trying to make this the best podcast possible. So if you do have feedback or anything like that, definitely hit us up on the DMs. If you're watching along on YouTube, make sure that you are subscribed and smashing that like button. We're inching pretty close to 100. I think we just hit over 80 subscribers, which is pretty rad. Not Mr. Beast 100 million numbers, but still pretty big in the grand scheme of things. So I appreciate all 80 plus of you tuning in on the YouTube side of things. And if you want the latest updates on the podcast, make sure you're following our Instagram and Twitter accounts. Links will be in the show notes. Shout out to my Buy Me a Coffee crew for just being amazing. The gang has really had a blast connecting in the Discord, and I'm sitting here looking at what's being discussed like a proud parent or something like that. It's just really cool to see the community super active, leaning on each other. One person might be an expert in something, and just the discussion part of it, it's just really cool, and I'm really grateful to be part of something like this. So if you want to join the fun in the Discord, head on over to buymeacoffee.com/pinpalspodcast. The link will be in the show notes, but I pretty much do my best to send out weekly newsletters. You get access to rewards and perks. Like you had access to this episode 2-3 weeks ago as a fun little Buy Me a Coffee perk/reward. You get 20% off all orders at warriorpins.com, so that's pretty cool. And you get exclusive access to the Pin Pals Discord server, like I was saying. It's a cool place to be, if you're a pin maker. It's a great resource, super friendly community. But yeah, that's buymeacoffee.com/pinpalspodcast. Link will be in the show notes. So today's episode, what can I say? He's the first returning guest on the podcast. He's influenced me and millions of others. He's an incredible artist. He's responsible for the creation of the Ninja Turtles. If you haven't seen the title for this episode, it's Kevin Eastman. I got to chat with him once more at the end of August 2022. I was nervous and excited, same stuff. But I think more so this time because I actually got to meet Kevin at San Diego Comic-Con. You can find all the stuff that I got signed and sketched and all that content over at the Warrior Pins Instagram feed. But yeah, I do my best to put on the Sean Evans interviewing hat and ask Mr. Eastman questions that I don't think he typically gets asked or, have any recorded answers on audio or video. So I hope y'all enjoy the interview. Again, thanks for listening to the podcast and being part of this community. Every download, every comment, every follow, I see it, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's the little things in life. All right. Enjoy my interview with my pin pal, Kevin Eastman.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey, how are you? Sorry, we're having issues with our cat.
All good. I just put my dog to sleep for a little bit, so hopefully he won't make any noise or anything.
Oh, no, we got dogs over there and cats. It's just, it's part of the deal.
I love it.
It's not a bad way to work at home, though, either.
It's a great way to start the week, too, right?
Yes, indeed. Indeed.
Kevin, welcome back to the Pin Pals Podcast. It's good to talk to you again. It's good to see you again. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. Thanks for having me on again. We are big fans of your pins and all things pins. We've got just cork boards everywhere, full of them.
Incredible, yeah. Hopefully some of my pins, I I don't know if you remember, I gave you some during one of the yeah. It's just still such a surreal moment, for all this to happen and for this connection that we have just to kind of come through. My love for the turtles and just creating turtle inspired art.
That's awesome. I say whatever gets you to that point where you can create whatever inspiration, wherever it comes from, that's the best thing ever, and it's pretty cool that it's turtles. So I'm sure you have many other things that inspire you, but that's great that turtles is one of them.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, it starts with like the little things and then it just kind of branches off. So it started as pins and now I'm kind of doing like experimenting with 3D printing, getting into some other stuff too. But okay, so my first question for you is you kind of touched on it a little bit. After, creating comics for so long and being involved with turtles and a lot of different projects, how do you stay inspired? Where do you find that inspiration?
Well, I'm lucky that I work with a lot of really wonderfully creative people. One of the main writers I've worked with over the last 11 years now is Tom Waltz, for example. He's wrote all 100 issues of the ongoing Turtle series, and we worked on. Yes, my goodness, he's a legend, and we get along super well creatively. He's just a really bright, intelligent, creative guy, and we teamed up obviously on the last Ronin thing to adapt that from that story Pete and I wrote. But that and the artist, a lot of these artists are. New, I mean, up and coming in that, younger than, probably half my age and more talented. And, they're ones that grew up wanting and going into this line of work, if you will, in the same way that I did, which is you fell in love with it, you fell in love with the passion of it, and wanting to do something creative within it. And man, they bring their A game all the time. So they are really inspiring as well, and they have a fresh, broader look at all things, not only all things creative but all things turtles. And so it's really I feed off that energy pretty well, like a vampire.
I love it. No, that's great. I could kind of say the same after being at San Diego Comic-Con, just being surrounded by all these artists, all these talented people, creative folks. It's just feeding off that energy, like you said, is incredible.
It's infectious, yeah.
So, kind of being the creative person you are, starting a bunch of businesses and things like that, how important marketing is. So I'm kind of curious on your take for an artist today, whether they're a comic book artist, sculptor, toy creator, pin maker. What's a well-spent marketing budget look like?
Well, it's that's a really good question, and I'm not deflecting in any way. It's one of those. It's almost in the scope of things when you're trying to say promote something or push something to an audience, a receptive audience. There are a number of ways to get there, and it's changed so dramatically over the years that I've been in the business, and certainly people are quick to gravitate towards things that they like, and they're quick to poo-poo things that they don't and move away from them. And so to find that like-minded audience, you really have to do a lot of legwork and find those whether it be the social media groups or the clubs, or the blogs, or the people that are in tune with that stuff and want to be informed about it. Signed up for newsletters, whether it be, for us, a lot of the certainly the comic book based stuff is going to comic book retailers, some of the industry trades, Bleeding Cool and comic book retailer, and there's other kind of things, and it's ultimately it's you can put the word out there, and it really pairs down to a good word of mouth, and it's something you were at San Diego Comic-Con, you saw something cool, you put it on your Facebook page and reference like, hey, look at this, isn't this cool? And then suddenly your friends are probably reposting it on theirs and going, wow, that's cool. Then where did I get this? And then, you can find it online. So it really, it's an interesting navigation system. And, we look at it on a number of ways, and we're lucky that we have a pretty well-known fan base that we can get the word out when we're doing something. But if you're launching something new, it does take a bunch of time to research it and really look at those groups and the people that have like-minded, like interests and things, and dip your toe in and see what the responses are, and then continue to navigate that way. But it ain't easy.
Yeah, it's grown more complex than running an ad in a magazine way back when.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Because that always seemed like, and that was the tried and true back in the day. It was kind of the shotgun approach, and there's still some value in that. But I think it's still when there's enough of an opportunity to get, say, free publicity and word of mouth publicity. That's obviously money much better, much well better spent. So
Yeah, 100%.
yeah.
So I have to ask you a turtle-related question,
Sure.
and I've been kind of going back and forth with my little community, because I found my community, trying to figure out questions to ask you that maybe we're not going to hear on another podcast. So I thought this one was pretty interesting. Of the entire turtle lifespan, all the iterations included, which character do you think has developed the most, be it a turtle or a villain, that's just kind of changed and grown, throughout the years?
It's what's so great, and that's a good question for sure, because it really is. They really do, go hand in hand, and that's what's so cool about them. Early on, to me, one of my favorite storytelling devices, from even going back to, say, one of my favorite all-time books, but it was Lord of the Rings, for example. When you have Sauron and you have, this dark side, which then, further, adapted into things like Star Wars. When you have such an intense and overpowering and seemingly overwhelming evil force, and then you've got this sort of ragtag group of rebels, or the most unlikely underdog, whether it be Frodo Baggins or Sarah Connor or Lieutenant Ripley or whatever, that David and Goliath sort of approach is the driving force to make it all work, and make a really good bad guy makes a hero all that more heroic. So that was something that, even going into the new series with Tom, that we looked hard and fast at, is like having some of the bad guys really create our heroes, create situations that our heroes needed to raise the bar and fight harder and longer and be smarter to make it work. So it's almost that concept, one feeds the other, and they kind of co-develop. So it's a pretty fun game, and it's certainly genre based. It's not something new in that, whether, as I referenced, Lord of the Rings or Watership Down or Star Wars or something more contemporary. You look at Thanos. That sort of changed that. That was came right out of the comics, and so but yeah, I think they definitely they can't be light without darkness, and vice versa. So it's great. They really do go together.
I love that answer. It makes me excited to see kind of what topics you're going to explore during the lost years.
Yes.
And I think Viacom or Paramount announced something about some like villain focused TMNT movies. So, maybe more stuff we can explore and all that stuff, which makes me excited, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's in the different forms of entertainment out there, that I think that that's, again, it's their approach is correct. It's like, and as we talked about, you really need both to make it work, to tell a good story. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate everything that you do and your involvement with the Turtles. It's been an absolute blast, and if all things go well, I'll see you at Granite State.
Yay, Granite State. I know, it's like we were just going over some of the scheduling stuff, and it's like it's right there. We're about to dive into that headlong, and that's going to be quite an adventure. It's taken shape to be quite. It's our last show in the U.S. this year. We've got one out of country after that, but otherwise, this is the
big turtle party.
Yeah, this is the Super Bowl.
Heck yeah.
But it's going to be great, and yes, look forward to seeing you there. I hope everyone comes together and you can make it up there. But look forward to seeing all the fans there, and as always, a pleasure speaking with you.
Shell, yeah. I appreciate it, Kevin. Cowabunga.
Cowabunga.
Take it easy.
You
Bye.
too. Have a great day.
Thank you, man. You as well.
Thanks.